Welcome to my LoreMaster guide in healing T5s. Most people don't really consider LoreMasters to be the greatest healers, and those people are silly. First of all, I want you to notice that LoreMasters can reduce outgoing damage on mobs quite significantly, and if they were not as lazy as what I would, they would swap to their unimbued book, which would take it down another 5% for physical damage. Generally, you control the amount of damage that the tank's receiving via reducing the target's outgoing damage, and then also by measures. Stuns, dazes, roots, all of that. As you can see me cycling through a couple of stuns, tabbing through the mobs as I go. I generally picked this composition because it was a bit of a tougher one, as the yellow champ would just keep pulling off the tank, and obviously it's not Breaky Boy's main tank, but it's still fine. It all just adds to the experience. Generally what you want to do is you want to obviously try to get as much HPS out as possible. Generally at the moment my LoreMaster sets at about 31% finesse. Obviously you can see a couple of resists going up, and I will definitely try to push that up higher when the 6-man and if raids come out. With the T5 debuff, buff to the mobs, it's quite tough. Generally obviously trying to cane out as much HPS. At the moment I'd say a single target my LoreMaster could get out about 15k HPS, which is obviously shocking, as the minstrel should probably be set between the 30 to 40k mark, and Rune Keepers are just destroying at the moment. So like I said, you walk into a little pool like this, Bane flare out, you're trying to basically allow the DPS to kind of create as much aggro as possible so that the tank can just re-taunt, and obviously it's a lot easier. And then obviously if it need be, you can always use your bear to taunt, as I've done there. And yeah, basically just trying to keep the DPS alive and the tank alive. Worst comes to worst, you can always reset with Call of the Valor and have another Bane flare if possible. Generally, obviously the tank's going to pull off your bear very easily. The idea here is basically to actually just resummon your bear as much as you want and taunt off of the tank. Just giving him that 5 seconds of force taunt to just get a heal up. Obviously you're going to be worried about frontals. As you can see, you dismiss your pets and you use them because it resets all their abilities. Generally you can do this as much as you want. Obviously Nature's Spirit has that 30-second cooldown for the 10% max morale heal, which is obviously one of your bigger heals as a LoreMaster. What? Freaking legend, look at that champion. Obviously the water knowledge is mostly just for the 2% miss chance, as silly as that sounds, it's just something to do. And now obviously with damage kind of being around the medium mark, you'd obviously want to just get out Bane flare, stop the damage a bit, get a couple of heals out, and at this point you can kind of time your Nature's Spirit. You can tell when the mark hits about halfway that you're look at me using Pleasant Breeze, what a douche. Obviously only doing this in the 3-man, you'll never tread Pleasant Breeze in a raid, that'd just be silly. As you can see, when your Nature's Spirit gets to about half point, you can use the 10% max morale heal. But I think I just keep it up here because we're chaining the pool. Chaining the pool is obviously quite important because obviously captains can keep up their incoming healing, guards keep up their fortifications, and for me it just basically allows me to use Windlord to just kind of spread off of the target that we brought into the next pool. So kind of chain pulling is slightly more favorable, but obviously you need to have a bit of morale if you want to do it. Generally, never really actually worry too much if your tank has to use a couple of cooldowns to survive. That's what they're there for. Pleasant Breeze again. Oh fuck. Silly stuff. Which is predictably going to be on the tank. Second of all, you actually don't need a healer for this fight. Most tanks can just do this solo, and also it's got really good DPS. So send in the bear just to kind of get that 10% incoming melee damage going, bring out the wisp, put up the revealing mark eventually I guess, and okay, obviously go for Sikkim. That's quite important. Also one thing you probably maybe didn't see, but I switched my class item to get the Sikkim 10-second reset on crit. So obviously I'm just trying to hit as much as possible to reduce the cooldown of Sikkim. And let's pretend when I use knowledge of the LoreMaster I was actually trying to reduce his outgoing crit, and that I'm not a crazy person checking his mitigations. Obviously you're just trying to keep up Ancient Craft as much as possible, and if I was a decent LoreMaster I would have made that goblin straight off the bat, but I was being a bit of a douche. Obviously super distracted. Um, Generally also here, you know, there's not really any frontals other than his 2 abilities, which are, I imagine, distributed to a degree. Okay, yeah, I'm working on the Goblin a bit, getting a couple of stuns, Bane Flare, whatever. It's not like you really need to save it for this fight. It's basically just reducing that. The champ is red at this point, so obviously he's just going for the single target, and I think we just focused on the boss mostly, because we thought, meh, don't really care about the ad that much. The only thing that the ads do, which is quite annoying, is put bleeds up, so maybe you'll every now and then see the captain get a bleed. Pleasant breeze. Oh, silly. Everybody laughed at me for trading it. Look at them. Look who's laughing now. So yeah, generally at this point in time it's just jogging, just keeping up debuffs, next ad out. Apparently I will throw blinding flash at some point. Also something to note, I'm not wearing the induction set in this video, which is just because I was lazy and it was on my minstrel. I should definitely have put it on. Because, you know, with just dismissing and resummoning pets as much as you do as a LoreMaster, you definitely want that up. And look at me, I'm an absolute douche. Sikkim is off cooldown and I'm not using it. For some reason throwing sticky tar instead to movement slow. Oh gosh, what a loser. General pet rotations, anything you really want. In a boss fight like this, you can throw the kitchen sink. Hopefully, God forbid, someone put a hunter in your group, because at the moment hunters are in the saddest of sad ways. But mostly you'd just be using the nature spirit and the bear. Mostly because the only time you really use bog lurker is if there's a hunter, or unless you've got a extremely yellow warden or some sort. And Raven, I mean, most arcades are yellow at the moment, so I wouldn't really imagine using the Raven. Although I guess in the final boss, you know, for a bit of AoE, but I'd still probably suggest that the arcade go yellow. It appears there's a lot more DPS in that at the moment. Obviously the downside to blue LM is Beacon of Hope, isn't there? So it's just a big single target heal. But generally I was rotating the revealing mark every now and then from the nature spirit, so it's fairly easy, and that champion is absolutely a machine. Put this pull in because Breaky over here taunts a little bit early, so I wanted to kind of get the whole damage control part of it in. So there's obviously a Bane Flare of the bat, builds a bit of aggro, and then obviously at this point I'm just trying to kind of keep mobs off of him. Blinding Flash, I think I bring out the bear to taunt. Yep, there we go, bear taunt. I probably should have gone for Light of the Rising Dawn. Just a couple of things. So when you see that happen, you can pretty much juggle quite consistently, and as you can see I select Call of the Valor, so if it really kind of went pear-shaped I could have just reset everything and just got another Bane Flare, Blinding Flash, that sort of stuff. And generally the 3-person pull isn't that hard, but unfortunately I skipped the video where we do the next pull, and that's kind of a bit more fun, where there's usually like 5 to 6 mobs. At this point I'm showing you a quick brief look at my trait tree. Pleasant Breeze is traded. I took the point out of Enfeeble because it's bugged at the moment. It's got that classic bug where the first 10 seconds of your ancient craft is actually half of what it should be. Same bug happened in Abyss, where they did that, where actually every rating was lower. The only thing that you're missing is, I think it's Sign of Power Command, the attack duration. I don't get the 30% of that, which actually makes quite a big difference. I really enjoyed for LoreMaster to be able to reduce their attack duration, but for me the DPS is more important, so I'd rather go take it out and just have Ancient Craft at full strength, and that Sign of Power Command, or whatever it's called, at half, which is a bit of a bugger. I went yellow-blue mostly because of air lore. I know it sounds stupid, but I feel like air lore procs a lot more than what the tooltip suggests. That 5% feels a lot higher. That tank feels a lot more secure, and also generally it's not really a DPS race or anything like that in this fight. And also I wanted Beacon of Hope or AoE, just, you know, because if the champ got caught in some of the blasts, or if he pulled off, because the champ was yellow in this fight, so I just didn't really want to have the point where, like at this point now, where the champ and the tank are obviously taking a lot of damage, I can put Beacon of Hope on one of them and just let it splash over. Generally, not as important to kind of get the whole like Shattered Arms or whatever from the bear out. So I just keep the Wisp up, mostly for the 10% max morale heal. And this is kind of where I guess the captain and I kind of got shown a little bit, because I wasn't potting him as probably well as I should have, and he wasn't potting himself as well as he should have. So you can see a couple of bleeds staying on a little bit longer than they should have. Like now I should have got his bleed, things like that, but it's not that hard of a run. At the moment, Harrow and Roost are just mostly face rolling, although if you want to obviously challenge Barrows and Barrows and Filth, obviously a little bit more harder because they require attack mitts, and no one can invest in that because that's just silly stuff. Generally also what you want to do here is, obviously you can't mez bosses, but you want to kind of try and keep the walks locked down. You can see me going for Bane Flare as a Scion out. Try to keep him locked down. Once he breaks out of the champs obviously damaging him, you can throw Bane Flare, which I don't think I do anytime soon. And I have to admit, this point got a bit sticky in the fight. It shouldn't have been sticky, but I was line of sighted to the captain and I wasn't paying attention. So I had to pop out, and I actually let this point be a little bit harder than it should have. But he was a champ, and by champ I mean a proper captain, and used last stand like a good boy, because that ended heal is actually something quite special at the moment. But you can see we pull him up quite easily with Wisp's 10% max morale heal, and just generally a little bit of respite. Also, another thing important to remember, and probably something I should have done, is never forget to actually just, at this point, once you've used the 10% Wisp heal, just dismiss it, bring the bear out, taunt the boss off. There's no frontal on this boss, so you can pretty much just taunt off, give the tank a little bit of time. But I think at this point he was fully HP'd, and it was kind of a bit of an easy part of the fight now. I kind of settled into it and stuff. And obviously Ancient Craft Timing is also pretty good. If you can get it up when obviously the walk's out, it just helps the champ or whatever class you've got DPS in just to do a bit more. They've obviously buffed Ancient Craft. At the moment it's at about, I think, 225k, and when they fix Ancient Craft, or Enfeeble shall I say, then obviously we'll be able to get even more. So at this point we're basically just mostly doing the boss, but a little bit every now and then on the walks, just to kind of get rid of them. Especially when he does the come closer part, you obviously don't want to be close. And like I said, Water Knowledge literally just to annoy, and then I reset Call of the Valor for just another Bane Flare. Just kind of give the champ a little bit of that luxury. And now I decide to go for the classy finish and bear taunt off at the end because I'm a douche. And that's it. Easy as can be. LoreMaster healing is simple.